coming into butterfly pose, where the soles of your feet come together and the knees drop out to the side. And then just taking a few moments here. And what you can do if it's comfortable is just rest your hands around your baby, just as a way of connecting in with them. Now that might not be comfortable if you're having to just lightly hold the knees instead to give you comfort in your hips. So you can make a choice. You can decide to maybe take the feet a little further forward. So that will reduce the amount of stretch in your hips, and then that might make you more comfortable to just bring the hands around your baby. And then you're just going to close your eyes. And just take a moment to just connecting with your own body first of all, noticing how it feels. And then become aware of your baby. So you might be able to feel some sensations underneath your hands. So you might feel maybe some movement, maybe some little hiccups. You sometimes get little bubbling sensations. Or if you're in the early stages, you might have just the most subtlest of little flutterings. And then turn your attention to your breath. And notice what happens as soon as you become aware of your breath. It naturally becomes longer, steadier, smoother. And then see if you can make your breath just a little bit longer. Can you slow the breath down? Just a little bit more, so you have more control over your breath. One technique that we can use is to integrate the ocean breath. So this is the yogic breath where you contract the muscles around your throat to create just a little bit of resistance, which then slows the breath down by squeezing the windpipe just enough to make it a little bit more narrower. So it's the same sensation in our throat that we make when we are snoring or when we are sighing under our breath. And we often get just the gentlest of snoring sounds. It's quite reminiscent of the ocean when we work with this breath. And then we're just going to do a little bit of gentle warm-ups for the hips. So you've got a choice. You might want to hold your feet or ankles initially. And as you breathe in, again with this nice long Ujjayi breath, the ocean breath, you're going to let the knees rise up. And then as you breathe out, that relaxing part of the breath, you're going to just relax the knees all the way down. And you're going to do the same again. So on the inhale, gently rising. On the exhale, gently releasing. Notice how that feels. Is there some tightness in the hips? And if there is, then it's quite often that the repetition of what you're doing here will eventually start to create a little bit more space in the hips. So often when we do a stretch the first, second, third, even fourth time, it feels quite stiff, but then you start to do more repetitions and you start to notice that there's a little bit more freedom, there's a little less restriction and a little less discomfort. So you're going to carry on in this same way, inhaling knees up, exhaling knees down. And you're going to add a pelvic floor squeeze as well. So as you breathe in and you lift the knees, squeeze and lift your pelvic floor muscles as well. And then as you breathe out, consciously relax and let go of your pelvic floor muscles. So we want these two kind of opposing qualities in the pelvic floor. We want to be able to squeeze them tightly to contract the muscles, to make the muscles strong. And we also need to relax them as well. Just doing that a few more times. So squeezing and lifting the pelvic floor. On the inhale as the knees rise up. And then softening and releasing. And just do 2 more. And then just relaxing, noticing how that feels. And we're just going to do a little bit of a spinal movement. So as you breathe in, press your chest forwards, and you'll notice that that deepens the work in the hip. And then press your chest backwards. And you'll find that that works really nicely with your breath. So as you breathe in, the chest presses forwards. As you breathe out, the chest rounds. So if you're right up against the wall, you might find that you've got not enough space. So you might want to just wriggle your way forwards, just a little bit, so you've got enough room to arch back the other way. So we are pressing the chest forwards on the inhale, just getting that little bit of extra work in the hip, and then rounding the back on the exhale. And then the next time you finish the out breath, you can just relax. And using your hands, gently gather the knees all the way up. And then lean back into your hands. You probably do need to come a little bit away from the wall now. You don't need the support anymore. Take your feet forwards and quite wide. And this is a really nice, easy stretch for the hips. So, if your hips are feeling a bit tight, and again, with the sleeping, it's always quite useful to do a few hip stretches before you go to bed, because then it doesn't niggle you quite so much. So I would say anything that is causing you not to sleep, fix it before you go to bed. So you could just spend 5 minutes before you get to bed just doing these stretches. This is a really good one. So you're going to drop both knees over to one side. And then you're going to bring them up and drop them over to the other side. And this is giving you the range of internal and external rotation. And again, if it feels quite tight, it's probably quite a good one to do. Does it feel quite tight?
Yeah. I think I've been so conscious of the baby because I had a miscarriage not long before I fell pregnant again, that I've been so conscious about moving because I'm obviously worried.
Yeah.
That I've kind of gone the opposite end of the spectrum. When I'm at home, I just sit down.
You don't
and
move.
That obviously makes it worse. I know that, but it's just the fear that something terrible is going to happen, which is why obviously I've booked in for some professional techniques. I mean, my daughter, bless her, like, I can teach you on YouTube.
Bless her. How many weeks are you, Katie?
23.
23, okay. It's sort of good to know because that's a fairly established pregnancy now. So does that kind of help to alleviate some of your...
It does, and now I can
feelings?
feel like moving around and stuff. But like the breathlessness was a symptom for the miscarriage, you see. So every time I get breathless, even though I know it's like coming up the stairs earlier, I know that's why, but in my head I'm thinking...
It's triggering.
I need to go to A&E.
Yeah, it's triggering you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think that's why it's so tight.
So tight, yeah, because you didn't dare move.
Yeah.
Which
Which I know sounds ridiculous, but...
No, it isn't. When you've had a trauma like that, I think most people would be the same, so it's not ridiculous. But, then now we have to think you've got a good, strong, healthy pregnancy there, good, strong, healthy baby.
Yeah.
So now let's sort those hips out.
Yeah.
And Donna, how many weeks are you?
23.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely. Friends.
I'm 23.
23. Oh my goodness, it's going to be an empty class when you three go. Your happy babies. Okay. Right, so yeah, just a couple more then. Noticing is it getting looser? So that's the other thing, with the repetitions, what you might find is you're getting it a little bit looser.
So So I did try swimming with the breaststroke, and that did help. Initially, when I got in, my legs felt like a lead weight, but like when you said, oh, the more you do it, so I think I might try and integrate that a little bit more, as well as doing this.
Yeah, and it'll come back. It'll come back. I mean, you think, you know, you've only been static for what, 23 weeks, probably less than that, because you wouldn't have known. Oh, you said you found out quite early on.
Yeah, I've only literally first day of this period, because we were trying. So yeah.
But it's, you know, it'll come back. The flexibility will come back quite quickly. Okay, so take the legs out, have a little stretch. So now we'll have a look at some slightly different moves. So we're going to stretch into the right leg. So this is a good kind of hamstring and calf stretch. Particularly if you really pull the toes back. So we'll just sit here for a moment and we'll press the toes forwards. Again, this is quite good for the instep. It might trigger it, like it's triggered my little toe. But just again, lengthening those muscles. So pointing the toes and then pulling the toes back towards you. So you're going to stretch the front of the feet and the instep, and then pulling the toes back and stretching into the calf muscles. They're quite simple moves. Another really good one for the calf is actually circling, because you kind of get a full range. So I can feel this, my insteps. Can you feel yours going?
No.
My insteps. I've been struggling with it lately, but then, you know, this is the menopausal side of hormones, which is another joy that you have to look forward to. And then go the other way around. So. Yeah, it's really interesting as somebody that's been working with like female health and particularly female hormones, just watching how the correlation between pregnancy and menopause is, you know, it's identical, absolutely identical. All the stuff that you have in pregnancy, you have in menopause, except you don't get a baby at the end of it. In fact, you never get a baby. never get a baby. Okay. So from here, we're going to take the right leg back into that butterfly position. You might find it's easier to just do one at a time. You're going to still work that right leg by pulling the toes back towards you, so you can really feel that stretch in the back of the leg. Yeah, you've got a good stretch there, more or less. How is that on your kind of
hips?
Yeah, your swelling and congestion. Is it feeling okay?
Yeah, fine. I mean, I've got hip dyspraxia anyway, so I didn't like that one.
Yeah, I remember you saying last time you had some trouble with your hips, didn't you? That's okay.
That one's, I said that one, that's nice.
And I'm quite confident actually, Lily, because we've worked together for many years. You kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll stop it.
So I'm quite confident that neither of us will injure you. Okay, so again, that heel's pulling away, toes are pulling towards you. You've got an active stretch in the leg, and then we might forget about that because we're going to work on the other leg and the pelvic floor and some arms. So with all that going on, you might forget about the leg stretch, but I'll keep reminding you that we're really working into that leg as well. Something that you can do if you want even more of a stretch, particularly if your hamstrings are quite good and you really want that calf stretch, you can put something small underneath the heel. And then you're getting more. So that's for the people with the calf muscles that need a calf muscle stretch. You could put what happens if you put your cushion underneath your heel, Melissa? Do you get a bigger stretch?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Is it manageable?
Just it goes further up as well. So it just stretches more.
Okay, is it alright? It's manageable. Okay. So that's an option for those of you that need more in these crampy bits. Okay. So we're going to breathe in, let the knee lift off the ground. We're going to take the arms up this time as well. And then on the out breath, you're going to lower everything down. So nice, gentle, slow Ujjayi breath. Same again, but this time pelvic floor lift. We're going to squeeze the pelvic floor all the way up. And then we're going to breathe out and let it go. And I'm going to go again. So breathe in, lift up, pelvic floor. Now you're going to hold that pelvic floor in place while you breathe out and you lower the arms. And you lower the knee. So lots going on here. Now keep hold of the pelvic floor again while you breathe in. And this time on the out breath you can let it go. Okay, so we're going to add on one more movement every time. So you're going to breathe in, pelvic floor lift. hamstring stretch, knee lift. Hold the pelvic floor while you breathe out and you lower the arms down. Keep that pelvic floor engaged. Work the leg, work the knee, work the hip. Pelvic floor still lifting. It might kind of drop a little bit, but you can keep reminding yourself to hold it in place. Last time, third breath. Pelvic floor engaged. And then releasing and coming down. So a little bit of a stretch for the back and a little bit more stretch for the hamstring now, placing your hands on the front of your shin. And sometimes it's quite nice to just move laterally, sort of from side to side, particularly if the back is feeling a little bit tight. So just notice what happens when you kind of waft your spine from side to side. That can be quite a nice movement to get into. And then to come a little bit lower down, we're going to need to take this leg wider, because obviously with a bump there's limited space to come forward. So we're now going to come into a wide-legged option. And both knees can go as wide as you are comfortable with. So again, now we're working on a different range of hip motion. So this is different again. Now we're working the inside of the hip and the inner thigh. So bringing the hands onto the floor, and again you might want to kind of make some nice movements here. How does that feel to kind of undulate and waft the spine? Now remember that we're working on the right leg, so are the toes pulling back? Is the heel pushing away? Are you still working with your hamstrings? And then just see what happens if you walk the hands a little bit further forwards. So this increases the work in the hip. So every time when you're working on your hips and you fold a little bit further forwards, you're deepening the work in the crease in the hip. So only go to where you feel is the right place for you. And again, if we keep it moving, we keep it fluid rather than holding it, then it's often a little bit more manageable. How's that feeling, Katie?
Yeah, it's more so in the muscles at the minute, but again, I think it's just because of I've not been very.
Yeah, so you're probably going to feel it everywhere today.
Yeah,
everywhere that hasn't been worked for a while, and then slowly coming all the way back. Now this next one is a bit of a lateral stretch, and it's if you're towards the end of your pregnancy, you might not feel very comfortable about lifting yourself up, so you can just not do this one. In fact, what you can do is just do a gentle side bend. So that's your option, to bend away from the straight leg. If some of you, and you haven't got any wrist issues or shoulder issues, what you can do is press the left hand into the floor, push up, and just hold that a little bit. Again, you can work into it, working your stretch through the side, and then come all the way down. Okay, so that's your option. You can either push all the way up and over, or you can keep the hips on the floor and just take the arm over.
Okay, the opposite.
Come over. So it's easier than it looks. This one looks, so Jen, you want your thigh completely upright. So you have to move the hand a little bit further forwards, because if the thigh isn't upright, then you're not supported. So yeah, so I think what's happening is you've got your shin tucked under. So maybe take it back towards the knee, and then you need to shift forward, shift your hips towards the wall, and more. Now, can you feel the difference? Now you can take the leg away, you can take, because you're completely supported now by that thigh. Okay, and then coming all the way back, and then you can take the left leg out, and then this kind of rebounding action is quite nice as well in between things, so just giving everything a jiggle, and then we're bringing the legs back together, so we're going to go where we got to last time, and this time taking the right leg into the bent knee position, so left leg, except you're doing the other one.
I just copied you.
Yeah.
The opposite way to
With the one that feels stiff.
You're not all doing the opposite to me.
We were all the same.
Yeah.
So your right knee bends. That's it. You kind of tell because it feels stiffer because we spent a long time stretching the other one, so this one will feel a little bit tighter. So again, coming right up onto your sitting bones and just pulling the toes towards you, pushing the heel away, stretching into the hamstring. It's my water bottle sounds like a dolphin. No idea what it is. So same thing again. As you breathe in, the right knee is going to lift, or the knee that's bent is going to lift, and the arms are going to float all the way up. And then as you breathe out, it's going to lower all the way down. And same again. So squeezing the pelvic floor this time, coming all the way up, and then relaxing the pelvic floor as you come down. Same thing again, squeezing the pelvic floor, but this time you're going to hold on to the pelvic floor while you relax the knee down and relax the arms. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because everything wants to relax, so you have to really work at this. And then lifting again as you raise everything up, and this time as you relax, you can soften the pelvic floor. And we're going to do the same again. Pelvic floor squeezes and lifts. Hold it in place while everything lowers back down. Keep it in place while you lift up. Hold it in place again while you take everything down. And then last time, holding it in place. And then relaxing altogether. And then bringing your hands onto the front of your shin. Pull the toes back again, so you're getting a bit of a hamstring stretch, and then just gently weaving around from side to side. So again, if you want a bigger stretch, you can place something underneath your heel so that you can get deeper into your calf muscles. And then from here coming up, I'm now taking the legs wide. So both the straight knee and the bent knee are going to open out into wide-legged position. And then you're going to bring the hands down onto the ground. And then you're squeezing around, so just relaxing the spine, maybe coming forwards, maybe coming to the side. And then you might find that everything's loosening up a little bit more. So you might want to even see about walking the hands a little bit further forwards, so you can go a little bit more deeply into the stretch. And then coming all the way up. So then from here, coming into the side angle pose. So you do have to kind of adapt a little bit, because when you come up, you don't want to be here. So you might need to bring that leg in a little bit, so that when you come up, you want the thigh to be vertical. And then from that position, you've got all the support you need to lengthen out. So just adjust as you come up, so you can rise up into that position. Or again, you might just want to do the side bend from there instead. So yeah, you need to be slightly up more than this. So bring your hand in a bit more towards your body, and then take your hips more towards Charlie. So bring your back foot in and shift your hips towards, so you're shifting all your weight towards Charlie. Yeah, so once that thigh is upright, you are completely supported. And then when you're ready, just coming all the way back down, and then gently bringing the legs up, and then just bouncing and relaxing. So you've had the first couple of some pelvic floor exercises there. which is just the normal, they're called Kegels in America, or Kegels, which is squeezing and relaxing, which is what we often think of with pelvic floor exercises. But there's different ways of doing it. So there's the fast one where you just squeeze, release. But what we've also done is holding it for a progressively longer time. So that's the second one that you can do. So hold it maybe for one breath, relax, hold it for one breath, then breathe in and breathe out again. You don't have to do it with the movements that we've done.
I think I've been doing it wrong all these years.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I've been doing. So with my first pregnancy, so this is what I'm saying, I don't know, it was described to me as, you know, when you're going for a wee and then you stop, say if you were going to stop yourself midstream, that's the sort of the action that you would do internally. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Obviously I've not been having a wee when I've been doing it, like say I've been sitting here now, kind of like squeeze inside. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the easiest way to teach it, and that's quite often how we teach it as well, because actually it's the only muscle that we can register having control over.
I just thought it was worth mentioning because I was, when I was trying to do that thing, that I couldn't do it with the whole movement, so I ended up actually not doing it, and so I just thought it was worth.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning. We're going to do it on all fours, which might make it a lot easier actually. And also standing up is a bit easier.
I'm glad that somebody else heard that.
Yeah, that's the way it's
on.
Ripping its hand.
Has anyone seen all those Facebook things that you can apparently do, like the electronic ones, and
it gives you a pulse.
Yeah, it says you've got to squeeze to the pulse.
Yeah, as if you're holding something in.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned the exercise at the beginning, that's what I was really trying to do, and I thought I couldn't do it, but probably because it's a new technique, perhaps. I'm glad everyone else.
So I mean, ideally, we want the whole of the pelvic floor to become engaged, because actually, if you're just all you're doing when you do that stopping the wee exercise is you're squeezing your bladder sphincter muscle. Yeah. And that's a tiny part of the pelvic floor.
Obviously, you're seeing the whole.
We want the whole hammock to get involved. And so let's have a look at this. Let's break this down. So there are 3 ways that you can actually work the whole of the pelvic floor. So you can sit in any way that works. Sometimes kneeling works better for the pelvic floor actually, but not if you've got legs congested or varicose veins or anything. It's not a good idea to kneel. But what you want to do, so the first one is the bladder. So stopping as if you're going to wee. But again, that one is only the sphincter at the front of the pelvic floor. This is why when you're kneeling, you can actually feel it a bit better than when you're sitting on your bottom. So just for a moment, squeeze the neck of your bladder as if you need to start going to the toilet. Okay, and you can feel that's kind of at the front of the pelvis because that's where your bladder is. Okay, so that's the neck of your bladder. And it's interesting, isn't it, that actually it must have probably taken a woman to come up with the idea of squeezing a tampon, because a man wouldn't have come up with that, wouldn't it? Because that's quite a modern interpretation of this. Now you're going to do the back end. You're going to squeeze the muscles around your anus as if you need a poo, or if you've got diarrhea and you can't get to the toilet. And if you've ever travelled abroad, you'll know exactly what that feels like. If you've ever been to some of these faraway places and you've been on a long bus ride and you've got diarrhea from the food. What a lovely conversation. So you're squeezing the back end basically. So can you feel how that's very different? Very different location, but still all embedded within that pubococcygeal muscle. Now in between those two, so rectum, bladder, now squeeze in the middle. And that's the vaginal muscle, and that's a little bit like the squeezing the tampon. So each of those 3 really need to be activated. Yeah.
So when we were doing the exercise and you were asking to do the pelvic floor, I wasn't sure what I was doing, to be honest.
Well, there's the squeezing and lifting when we did the knee legs of movement. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to get all 3 of those, and there's quite a nice way of doing it. If you kind of go from the back to the front, so like a wave. So you squeeze the back one, middle one, front one. Can you see how that works?
Okay,
Yeah?
yeah.
Squeeze back, middle, front. And that, again, can you feel that's the tucking action? So if you weren't clear on tucking, if you squeeze from the back to the front, look, my pelvis is automatically going into that movement. The other thing that happens as well when you do a strong pelvic floor lift, did anybody notice a bit of belly? Get a little tiny tug on the ab muscles as well, so you're doing a little bit of ab work as well. Okay.
Sorry if that was a stupid question.
No,
I
it's
just
not.
thought,
There are no stupid questions. If you don't know, you don't know.
So I was just thought I'd clarify it because obviously it's been something I've been doing for years.
It's hard to describe, isn't it? Like to someone else. It must
Yeah.
be hard to describe.
Yeah, it is. But I think for me that's the easiest one, is just looking at all the sphincter muscles. So can you now work all of those three and get a good solid lift?
Yeah, and I think when we're doing the exercises, like I say, it'll be a lot for me to sort of try and think about everything. And I suppose it's just practice.
I did throw a lot at you. I mean, I gave you an arm, a leg, and a breath. That was really mean. Maybe I should have started with this and got you going with this.
Just holding my breath as well.
Yeah, that's another common thing, that we try and hold our breath when we hold our pelvic floor, and that's a really tricky one to undo. So it's a tricky habit to undo. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one, which is the tucking and tilting. So that might be easier from this all fours position. So it works nicer on an out breath. If you tuck your tailbone under and move your tailbone towards your navel, and then on the in breath, you're going to lift the tailbone up to the ceiling. And the spine changes shape as well. So quite often we do this from the position of the spine, where we tuck the tailbone under, the back really arches, so you can go full in and arch the spine as well and get a good stretch through the back. And then on the in-breath, the tailbone lifts, and then rather than dipping in the lower back, 'cause it's not good for the lumbar, but you can lengthen the rib cage away from your pelvis, but your tailbone is still lengthening back behind you. So if you have a look at the pelvis, tucking, pubococcygeal muscles contracting, tilting, pubococcygeal muscles lengthening. And it's that combination of the two that makes the muscles really strong but also really elastic. If you still can't get any tucking and tilting action going, as you're tucking, do those three movements of the pelvic floor sphincters, so bowel, vagina, bladder, and then release them all.
Is it okay from squeeze? I feel like my abs do squeeze up. Is that I mean,
There's-
the doctor come in, or is that okay?
They're kind of connected.
Okay.
So as long as you're not instigating a full-on ab
Yeah.
pull, and it's actually the kind of pelvic muscles that are working, but you will get a little tug on your abs.
Yeah, I'm trying to like relax it rather than
Yeah, I
squeeze it
wouldn't worry too much about relaxing it, because the thing is, at the moment, because you're still early days in your pregnancy, you can do that. Give it a couple of weeks. First growth spurt you have, those muscles are not going to engage quite the same way.
Mine goes like a pyramid down my stomach. If I try and engage my stomach, because they like totally don't touch anymore.
You haven't got DR, have you got diastasis rectus?
I've got it where they, so after I have the baby as well, I get that gap where my
And has it gone back?
It did go back. It took 2 years, but it came back, and then I got pregnant. So,
There's a really good, I did some work with a woman who's over in America, which she does a lot of work on diastasis rectus.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of moves, and I'm not sure you do them like natally.
yeah.
I think it has to be done postnatally.
Yeah.
I think I might have sent Mutu Mama. Did I ever send you all that stuff? I might have done some work with it. I can't remember. Okay, so tucking and tilting. So is that better, Katie? Can you get that action? You're kind of feeling that?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So just a couple more of these movements. So this is one, again, just getting this tucking and tilting action. And can you feel something happening in the pelvic floor? Can you feel a sort of sense of gathering and tightening, and then a sense of lengthening? Okay, so we'll carry on with our legs and our hips. So we're going to slide rightly forwards and stretch the left leg back. So we're just going to come in and then walk the hands back a little bit. So the more you walk the hands back, the more the stretch goes into the back quads. Yeah, those quads are solid, aren't they? Is that more the exercise?
Yeah, see, I'm not doing it, so they're a bit like, what's going on? So I'm not.
So it might be good just to sort of do these every now and again. So I think looking at you, because you can see the difference with Charlie and how high you're up, because your back quad is going, not going anywhere. So maybe do this every couple of days just to loosen the quads, because eventually it's going to start pulling your pelvis forwards as well.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get backache and as well as the cramp. So just rocking the hips from side to side. This is a really good one for the hips as well. So this is one that I give mums to do before bed. Again, it's quite an easy one. So the ones we've done, sit on the floor, rock the hips from side to side, then put the leg forward. So, but your quads don't look tight. So it's not the quads, is it? You look quite comfortable.
No, it's literally in the bones. Yeah.
So this one looks okay. Now, to get a little bit more working your quads, you can make your eyes water, and then lower down, and the leg. So that's just another way of deepening. If you really need to get into your quads because they're cramping, this is a really good stretch. It's really hard to do quad stretching when you're pregnant, because most of the time, see, we would do this. These are the quad stretches. You can't do them when you're pregnant. Okay, so from here, we're going to come into pigeon pose, which is a great hip stretch. So I'll come forward so that you can see. So from this knee forwards position, what you're going to do, you're not going to pick up the foot, because although it's quite tempting, you might put the foot in a position that is overstretching your knee. So what you're going to do is just walk the foot forward. So just take little tiny walks. Then you're going to bring your foot towards your left hand. And it may come quite significantly, and it may come not very far at all. What you don't want to do is have your left buttock on the floor. So you need to right buttock, you need to lift the right hip off the floor. Yeah, because the hips need to be level.
That's hard.
Yeah. And then what you'll find, Charlie, is because at the hip, the leg might just come back a little bit. But so the thing is, if you do this, there's nothing happening in the hip. Whereas if you're up and you come forwards, that's a different story. Okay, are you all okay here, more or less? So you've got a few options. You can stay upright if that's where you want to be. You can just come down onto your elbows if that's where you want to be.
I haven't done this since being pregnant, and I just panicked that something was there, and then I realised it was my bum.
See, pigeon's nice because it actually makes a space. We have to be really creative with pregnancy yoga.
Are you putting the foot above the bump or below the bump?
Well, mine, it depends where your bump is. It depends where your bump is. Because if you're carrying quite high, you've got to really get that leg up. And if you've got tight hips, if you've got really tight hips, which means that you can't actually get your shin out of the way, and your bump is quite high, you're not going to do it. If your bump is quite high, you've really, I know I'm doing something I shouldn't, but you really kind of need that leg here, but that means you've got to have the hips to do it.
Yeah.
So maybe what you do instead, Lily, is come up, because it's a similar stretch, but it's more quad, but you're coming up. And you need to get the right hip off the floor, because, that's it. How's that feel?
Yeah, it's better.
You alright, Catherine?
Yeah.
Hips, are they cramping or aching?
Struggling a bit.
Right, so from here you can come down and then just shift onto the right leg, and then just gently bring the left leg around. And then actually downward facing dog is a really nice counter pose to pigeon. So you spread the fingers quite wide on the ground, have the arms shoulder width apart. Now if you've got wrist issues or arm shoulder issues, this won't be suitable for you. Tuck your toes under and push into the heels of your hands, and you let the sitting bones really come up to the ceiling. So you're in that kind of tilted position that we did earlier with the tailbone sticking up. Now you don't have to have the legs straight. You can bend the knees if the hamstrings are tight. And then you can just work one heel at a time towards the floor. So again, if you've got tight hamstrings, tight calf muscles, tight Achilles, then this is quite a good one. It's going to really stretch out into the backs of the legs. And then coming all the way back down. Now from here, where did we get to? Left knee forwards. So just taking the leg forwards without moving it across just yet. So we do the simple variation and then just drop one hip to one side, one hip to the side. And just easing over. So this is a nice one, gets into the hips but also gets into the back quad as well. It's better on that side. Does it feel better? You look a little bit lower down. So it's your right, it's your left quad that's tighter than your right. Yeah. Because now we're stretching the right quad because the left leg's come forwards. Because it's the back leg, there's the quad stretch. Front leg is the hip stretch. And you're a lot lower on that side. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper here, you can walk the hands a bit higher up and that gets more into your quad. And then if you really want to go for it, you can start exploring lifting the knee off the floor. And lowering it down. Obviously if you've got knee issues, this might not be very suitable. Okay, and then coming into full pigeon. Now, if you can't, if full pigeon this way isn't comfortable, we do have a reclining version, which is this. So leg is still in the pigeon pose, but you haven't got all of the weight of your body on it, and you can just control it a little bit more. So because we're working what we do with pigeoning, left knee's pigeoning, isn't it? So the left leg will come up and over. And then you can kind of choose if it's loose enough, you might want to bring the right foot off the floor and then hold the back of your right thigh. That's it. And then just play around with that K2 and see what feels comfortable. So that's an option. If you're comfortable in full pigeon, then you can come into it. So now walking the left foot across towards your right hand. And again, you can either stay upright or come down, maybe onto your elbows, and then you make sure the hips are level because it's very tempting to just land the left buttock on the floor here, but then there's nothing happening. So you need to make sure that the hips are level. And then when you're ready, gently rising all the way back up. And then again, you can either come into downward facing dog as your counter stretch, or you can stay on all fours and just do some cat pose, tucking and the tilting for the pelvic floor. So whatever feels the right counter pose for you. My ankle's getting a good workout today. Okay, so once you come back down onto your hands and knees, we'll have another bit of a stretch. So calf stretch again, so you can stretch the right foot away, dig the toes into the floor and push the heel away. So again, this is another of the anti-cramp stretches that you can do before you get into bed. It used to work, it used to work on people. And then you're going to sort of circle that leg around and walk it to the outside of your right hand. So again, little hip stretches, moving the pelvis forwards and backwards. So just rocking.
Oh, it feels nice.
Forward and back. And this is quite nice on the back as well as in the hip. Now when you come forwards next time, so this will be your maximum stretch. Now you can see as I come forwards, my knee is considerably further forwards than my ankle. It's not good for my knee ligaments to be in that position if I'm going to hold it. So you need to make sure that in your deepest lunge forwards, your shin is vertical. And then you can just push up onto your thigh. Now coming back to your pelvic floor muscles, push the right foot into the ground and then relax it. Do the same again, push the right foot into the ground as if you're pushing the ground away and then relax. Now notice what's happening in your pelvic floor. Push the right foot into the ground. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
Pelvic floor. So there's some kind of magical correlation between pressing your foot into the ground and your pelvic floor being activated. So this is another way that you can work your pelvic floor. So keeping the foot pushing into the ground, take the arms out to the sides and just gently lift the arms up. And then you might want to lengthen through one side, lengthen through the other side. So this is quite a good stretch for the quad on the back leg. And a nice stretch for the back. And then just circling the wrists around, so if you're getting any kind of stiffness or tightness in the wrists and the fingers, is quite nice. And then just gently bring the hands all the way back down. And then slide that leg all the way back. And this time we're going to come back onto our heels, but you're going to need to make some space for your baby. So take the knees wide, big toes together, roll the spine to the ceiling. Take the hips all the way back onto the heels and then just have a little sway from side to side. Rocking the hips from side to side. So again, nice stretch for the lower back. And then coming all the way back up onto your hands and your knees, bringing the legs back into neutral position. Take the left leg back behind you, toes dig into the floor, pushing the heel away. Just holding that stretch for a couple of breaths. You can really work into the calf muscle.
I find this time anything that I do where I'm putting weight on my hands, other than just sitting or lying or whatever, I go really dizzy and it makes me, like, I can't do downward dog.
Okay, what's your blood pressure like at the moment?
I'm anemic.
Okay, yeah, so.
Yeah, and I've got really low blood pressure.
Right.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure why all fours would do that though, but maybe because your head is down. Okay, so we're coming out anyway now, Lily. So circling the leg all the way around to the outside of the hand. Is that better now? You're a bit more upright.
It's better, yeah, like that is fine. It's like as soon as
When
I
you're down, yeah. Okay.
my head's not level.
So something. So it sounds like something at this point is just reducing the blood flow to your brain in that position. So maybe whether you've got more fluid in your upper back, in the neck, in the brain.
Feels like it.
So easing forwards and backwards again. So just working into the hip on this side. And then when you take the body forwards this time into your deepest lunge, again, just checking that your shin is vertical and that the knee is directly over the ankle. And then pressing into your thigh to rise all the way up, bringing the hands onto the hips. And then same thing again, so pushing left foot into the ground and then relaxing. So push the left foot into the ground. And then relax. And then just see that relationship of pelvic floor muscles. And then pushing into the foot, engaging the pelvic floor muscles, taking the arms all the way up, and then maybe just having a little stretch through the sides again. And then just rotating the hands and the fingers, coming all the way down. Bring my hands onto the floor. And then slide the hands back. Now this time you're going to tuck your toes under. You're going to walk your hands back towards your knees, lift the knees off the floor, and then drop your heels. And then you've got a couple of options. So Lily, I imagine you want to come straight up with this one. So no dangling for you. Some of you that have got sort of stiffness in the back might enjoy having this. And actually it's interesting because normally with low blood pressure, people like having their head down for a long time. And it's interesting that you've got low blood pressure, but that's the last thing you want. So it's quite unusual. And then when you're ready, slowly rising all the way up. So we're just going to finish off, so I do want to get you to lie down for just a little bit, is tucking and tilting in the squatting position. So if I come sideways, you can get a bit of an idea. So the feet are hip distance apart. And we're going to use the squat as a way of it's tilting and tucking, so we do the tilt first. So what will happen, as you bend the knees, you're going to stick the tailbone back out. So this is the stretching part, so you're moving the tailbone away from the pubic bone, lengthening pubococcygeal muscle. On the out breath, tuck the tailbone under as if you're squeezing through those three sphincters, anus, vagina, bladder, and at the same time you're rising all the way up. And at that same point you're gathering the tailbone and the pubic bone together, contracting pubococcygeal. Okay, so lengthening, tucking under and squeezing. Now in addition to that, while we're doing the strengthening work, if you push the feet into the ground, you'll get that additional feeling that you got when you did that last pose. So, same again, coming down. Is that you again? I think it's always good when you get a nice crack, because it's just something needed to release. So tailbone tucks out, and then you're squeezing and lifting and pushing the feet into the ground. So it might be different to squats you've done before. If you go to the gym a lot, the squats at the gym are designed to strengthen your glutes and your quads. So you might be used to doing this, you know, something similar. But what we're doing here, we want the pelvis to do the job because we're working on the pelvic floor. So it's a different mechanism. So once again, tailbone tilting, and then scooping and pushing into the floor to rise up. And it's that scooping action that gathers all the muscles of the pelvic floor. Okay, same thing again. And scooping. Okay, so most of those are on the sheet. So you know, if you want to do your pelvic floor exercise, does that make more sense, Jen? Because you were saying you hadn't really got much of a.
It's good to like incorporate it into other things as well.
Yeah, and again, so this one's really good. Waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting for the microwave. You know, so you can kind of just bring them into your day. Okay, I'm going to get you to lie down. I haven't done a lot of like big stretching today. I'm just been a bit more technical. Everyone needs a lie down again. So you can choose. So are you alright lying down, or you'll just stay sitting up? I was just thinking of the dizziness if it was affecting you lying down. Go for it then. Go for it. A whole 6 minutes. So, if you're less than 20 weeks pregnant and it's comfortable, you can still lie on your back. After 20 weeks, it's recommended more to lie on your side because the weight of your uterus is now going to restrict the blood flow as it moves through the vena cava, which is located behind your uterus. So after 20 weeks, I recommend kind of lying on your side. Otherwise you might just get a little bit breathless, a little bit dizzy. And you can place a pillow underneath your head, you can place a pillow underneath your bump if there's any discomfort in your bump. You might want to place a pillow between your legs if that's where you're having most of your discomfort. You might need a pillow under all three of those places. You might find that the further you get in your pregnancy, the bigger your bed is being filled by pillows. But you know, comfort is everything, isn't it? And make sure that you're comfortable. So just allowing your body to rest, a very short amount of rest, but it's surprising the benefit that you can have even by just lying down for 5 minutes. So just allowing your body to come into complete stillness. Feel the ground beneath you as a solid support, so that as you feel the ground supporting you, you can relax, release and soften. Almost surrendering the weight of your body down into the ground. And then from that position of surrender, closing your eyes if they're not already closed, and just focusing on your breath. And without changing your breath in any way, just becoming aware of the sensation of your breath through your nostrils. So your attention is directed towards the opening of the nostrils where the air comes in. So as you breathe in, just feeling the sensation of your breath. And then as you breathe out, just feeling the corresponding sensation that comes with your exhale. Fix the awareness purely on this flow of your breath and the sensations that the breath makes inside the nostrils. And then shifting your awareness from that sensation of the breath in the nostrils, and take your awareness down into your baby. So where you are keeping a constant flow of oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide and a few other minor waste gases or used gases out of your body, you are doing the same thing for your baby. So their respiration is currently taking place purely through their circulatory system. So they're not lung breathing at the moment. But the oxygenated blood that you are creating through your inhalation is travelling through your circulatory system, through the placenta and through the umbilical cord into your baby. So every time you breathe in, the oxygen and the nitrogen that the body needs is not only moving around your own circulatory system, but also into your baby's. And then likewise, your baby will release and give up the carbon dioxide and the other used gases back through the umbilical cord, back into the placenta, back into your circulatory system, back up through your lungs, back out through the nose. So you now have an extra pathway to your circulatory system. So in essence, you are breathing for two. So this is why, it's one of the reasons we get breathless. There is another sort of physiological reason, but this is one of the reasons why we feel breathless, because our oxygen is having to go further. So when we breathe more consciously, we take more oxygen in. So whenever there are feelings of breathlessness, you don't necessarily have to breathe faster or breathe deeper or breathe fuller, but just observe your breathing and see if you can just slow it down a little bit, and working with that ujjayi breath that we did at the beginning, where we just slightly contract the muscles around the throat, allows us to take more oxygen in. So from here, just starting to gently gather your awareness back into the outside world. So noticing all of the sensations in your body, be aware of the ground beneath you. And then maybe listen to the sounds that you can hear, just using that awareness of the sounds to awaken your senses. You might want to give the body a little bit of a stretch, maybe wriggling your fingers and your toes. And then from here, just gently bringing yourself back up to sitting if you're not already a seated position. Just taking a moment to be aware how you feel. So mostly focus on the hips and the legs tonight, so hopefully you'll have a better night's sleep for those people who are struggling with their various sleeping aches. So the next time you breathe in, take the arms out to the side and lift and squeeze your pelvic floor muscles while you're there. And then release and relax as you bring the hands down into the heart space. Thank you so much for being here this evening, beautiful Yogini Mamas.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. All okay? It wasn't a very long relaxation, but I didn't really work you very hard, so I'll give you a good one last week. You had a good one last week, and we had a long one last week.
We were very relaxed last week.
Last time you focused on hips, I slept like a dog that night all the way through. So hopefully that's the case for
Ooh, there you go, Katie. That'll be really good. Let us know.
Julie, when you record, do you think I can have a copy of it?
Yeah.
Just because I forget.
Yeah.
I just don't really remember news.
I'd forget.
Yeah, do you tell you what? Actually, maybe I should turn it off. Forgotten to turn it off.